So you're in the UK right now. Are you filming, Sam?
I'm not at the moment. No,
Okay.
I think I'm potentially about to start something, and I finished something in June. So I'm sort of enjoying parenthood at the moment.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and I'm about to move house, so there's plenty going on if I'm not filming. But yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. We really appreciate it. I know it was last minute. Yeah, so Bagman, speaking of
Bag.
parenthood,
Yeah,
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 maybe
bag.
hopefully not quite as dark of a take on parenthood, but in your real life. But yeah, actually just watched it last night.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm intrigued to hear how you found it and whether you found it scary, first and
I
foremost.
I did. I did, but I'm actually like I am kind of a baby when it comes to scary, and especially when I know there was really good build up to actually seeing Bagman, and that really
Yeah.
got me. That really gets me, the audio of it all, being an audio
Yeah.
person.
Audio, I mean, I think for films in this genre, it's so important to have a good soundscape and to have the right music or the right build up to those moments. And I know that they worked a lot on kind of finessing the look of the Bagman. Like whilst we were filming, we had this amazing trapeze aerialist called Will, who wasn't an actor, but kind of stepped into the shoes of the bagman and was covered in, I say head to toe, but the top of his head to the bottom of his head in prosthetics, which was, a laborious sort of start to every day. So it was a
Yeah.
really interesting process to kind of be a part of and to watch happen and unfold. So
That's interesting
yeah.
that he was a trapeze artist because I did notice Bagman had really creepy movements and they seemed a little
Yes.
difficult. And at one point, he's really up there, which was one of my favorite
Yeah.
scenes.
Yeah.
Not to give too much away.
Yeah, well, I think that was what was most important to Colm, the director, I think, was to kind of have him move almost like a spider, like
Hmm.
to make him more creature-like rather than um, human. Yeah, Will is such a talented and very bendy human being. But
Yeah.
like honestly, I think what was sometimes off-putting is he's one of the nicest people. So you're being terrified or petrified of the man behind the mask. But at the same time, he had this very sweet undertone, very sweet voice. So made my job more difficult, I think.
Yeah. I was gonna ask, as an actor, like, how do you get yourself there with that, to the point of fear? Because I mean, you did a great job, and all the like anxiety around it felt very palpable.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the hardest parts of the job, I think. And it's been quite a while since I've done horror. Um, so it felt like I was sort of trying to find the rhythm of it initially. But yeah, it doesn't come easy. I think I think trying to pretend you're surprised. I mean, I don't know if you've ever walked into a surprise birthday party, but know the surprise is happening. It's very difficult when you
Yeah.
know what's happening behind the camera. But there's a real art to it, and you have some wonderful actors who specialize in this field. I recently watched Longlegs, and the girl,
Yeah.
the lead in that is phenomenal. I mean, like just you're petrified watching her watching something.
Yeah.
It's really captivating. But yeah, it doesn't come easy for sure.
I can imagine that. That was actually one of the things I wanted to ask you because I knew it wasn't your first horror thriller, but maybe in a while. And I wanted
Yeah.
to just know what that felt like and what you like about doing horror.
Well, I love watching horror. I've always loved watching horror ever since, I mean, I shouldn't have been watching movies as early as I was, but
Mm.
certain movies,
Relatable.
I think I definitely enjoy the feeling, the adrenaline kind of coursing through my veins when I'm watching a scary movie. I mean, films like Blair Witch, I remember kind of being life-changing for me. Um, Paranormal Activity was another one. And we talked about sound, the soundscape of things and hearing a pin drop.
Hmm.
It's those sorts of movements that I think, or sounds that really kind of resonated with my childhood. But I mean, I also watched sort of slasher movies like Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer, and uh, I kind of grew up watching those and kind of really enjoying those movies. So to get like in front of the camera and have the opportunity to kind of explore that and navigate that and challenge myself, I guess, in a new genre, is always fun. And Colm really sold this story to me. I mean, he sent me some of the sort of the real life mythical kind of articles that he'd found whilst researching it, and um, the fact, I mean, it's obviously loosely, very loosely based on a real myth, but nevertheless, I found that so interesting and
Hmm.
unique and original. I mean, a film like The Babadook, which came out, a few years ago now, was such an original idea and this new creature like tormentor that I found to be so compelling that it drew me into this, quite easily. So I think it's a matter of a series of things. I think it's a matter of wanting to challenge myself in a new way, having the right director at the helm, and someone who can visually tell this scary story, trusting the process. Because obviously, when you're making a horror movie, you have no idea how it's going to end up. Like, I mean, I was working with a trapeze aerial artist, and so there's no way of knowing how scary this thing is going to be. But you have to trust it. And again, I trusted the director. So it's kind of out of your hands in a way, and you have to just hope. But I was sort of similarly scared out of my seat and on the edge of my seat, sorry, I should say, through watching this. And I think we did the job. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it does have a little bit of a Babadook type element now that you say it. And as far as
Yeah.
the sound goes, I will say like I haven't heard the zipper thing before.
Yeah, no, that's a
It's
new. Yeah.
yeah, that's a new
Yeah.
one. That's a new one,
But
but
that
very
that was
effective.
that was one of the first things that he sold to me, I think. He said, just imagine being in the middle of like the woods and hearing a zip, like what sounds like a really rusty zip. And I was like, I can't even imagine what that sounds like. And then he got me a version of what he had in his mind and played it for me. And I was like, oh my God, that's terrifying. Um, but equally, the laugh was something that he really wanted to work on. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, all of the elements. But I think really one of the other reasons I was so drawn to the project was the fact that Patrick, the character that I'm playing, is a father, and the age of the boy in it was the same age as my daughter. So I was like, okay, I know how to interact with this age group, and I want to know the fear of what I know the fear of, like, potentially losing a child, or like being petrified of that happening. And so like in many ways, like the fear was real. Like I was just imagining it being my
Yeah.
daughter, and what if this was happening to me? So it's yeah, there was definitely like a nice um full circle type
Moment for
thing.
you. Yeah. I guess on that note, for people that don't know, how would you describe Bagman in your own words, like the premise of it, without giving too much away?
Okay. Well, we've talked a little bit about the character, the creature like Bagman, character. And he basically, the myth is that he snatches children. It doesn't he particularly likes children that are good and worthy, to be kidnapped, bagnapped, if you will. But he goes around and culturally, like, I mean, internationally, it's not specific to a certain area or a certain family, but he just picks and chooses off a whim, the children that he wishes to take away. Um, what we sort of find out is, I don't know if I can talk about my character and how he was previously tormented as a child and managed to escape it, but I think he spent most of his with the rest of his childhood and most of his adult life thinking that he was imagining it and it was all in his head. And so I think that there's a lovely play in this film about mental health and someone who's lost his job and doesn't have anything, feeling that maybe he is having a breakdown. Um, so the family moved back to his hometown in order to kind of save some pennies or get back on their feet. So he moves back into his family home, and strange happenings start occurring in the household. And as a father, he fears that the same thing is happening to his child that happened to him. So he starts trying to convince people that he's not insane. And
Hmm.
um, there's the sort of beginning, I suppose, of the story. But yeah, the rest, obviously it's a scary movie. There are some jump scares and some scary moments, but yeah, it's a ride.
Yeah, there's some pretty scary moments. I definitely was jolted a lot, and that's you put it well. Like it's kind of a classic tale as old as time. Like you go back home, then your childhood fear resurfaces, and the anxiety starts all over again.
Exactly. Well, it's being in that same place, people, tend to go back to certain areas of their childhood and reminisce or are reminded of certain events that took place in that place. And so I think there's a part of him being back in his childhood home that he's like, I think this is it, am I just imagining it again?
Hmm.
Like, it's why is this happening? Um, but I mean, what I suppose gives him some sense of comfort or ease is that his wife is experiencing it at the same time. And so this young in love family who are struggling together, I think, to kind of survive. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Bagman, a lot about resurfacing childhood fears. And question for you, separate from your character, Patrick, actually for you, what was your childhood fear? Do you remember having a big, major childhood fear, no matter if it's irrational? We talk about irrational fears a lot on our podcast.
I I'm sure I had a fair few. I wasn't the sort of bravest soul growing, but I think well, there was two. I remember watching, was it Ernest Saves the Day or something? And there was
Yes.
a film where there was trolls, these trolls that turned kids into wooden, is it
Oh
wooden,
my God.
little wooden models or wooden shapes? And I remember seeing that and being utterly terrified for like a solid few years. Um, but equally, I when I was very young, I was stung by a jellyfish in the ocean. And I remember kind of we were in North Africa on a family holiday, and the beach ball had gone a little deeper into the ocean. I sort of went out, and there was lots of seaweed, and I remember feeling like there was seaweed wrapped around my leg. And as I
Mm.
came out of the ocean, there was a jellyfish just wrapped itself around my leg. And I think that scared me no end for a long time, like for fear of having seen Jaws and just feeling like there was things in the ocean that we couldn't see. And I have to say, I think that was only beaten about 5 years ago when I did the film
Oh,
Adrift, which was out in the ocean. And I still had this sort of, if I jumped off a boat or went swimming in the middle of the ocean for whatever reason, I would be petrified of being eaten by sharks. And yeah,
yeah.
and I actually didn't eat fish for a long, long time purely because it was sort of all part of what they know. They know.
Wow.
Um,
They'll get their family will get you later.
yeah,
Their
this is
ancestors.
I'm trying to like save every fish that I can. Turning to black man.
No,
Yeah.
that's great. Yeah, no, all the listeners know that mine is sharks
I
and
was going to say
particularly
what it was. Okay, sharks.
yeah, sharks, but particularly in the swimming pool. That was like my kid fear. Irrational.
How would they get in the swimming pool?
Didn't matter. Just it was the image. I couldn't be alone in a pool because I just kept thinking there'd be a shark. So yeah, I was
That's
interested like the jellyfish of it all. It's not even the pain, it's just like the thing wrapping around you that you didn't see coming.
Well, yeah, but it was the aftermath, I think, of like someone having to sort of peel it off, and it was sort of really clinging, like one of the tentacles that really wrapped around my leg, and yeah, it wasn't a pretty sight. I have to say there was another thing. I remember watching, I think it was a James Bond movie or an Indiana Jones movie, and and I remember seeing a meme very recently about this exact thing, saying, growing up, I always thought quicksand was going to be a much bigger
Yes, yes.
issue, because that every film you watched, action adventure movie, would end with someone dying from quicksand.
Yeah.
But again, going to the beach was just a no-go zone for me for a little while.
Yeah,
But
because sand, fish,
it's
it's
just, yeah, it's a,
all the
yeah,
traps.
the
Yeah, I
horror movie.
think that's
Yeah.
a John Mulaney bit. I think that I always thought
Is it?
quicksand was going to be a bigger problem. Yeah, I love that.
I
It's so
love him. I
good.
think he's so great.
I thought you were
Um,
about to say piranhas when you mentioned James Bond, because I know that I always thought piranhas was like how all the bad guys would get you. They would like dump you in a pool of piranhas. Never happens in real life.
no, no, it doesn't. I don't know anyone who's died by piranha. But I mean, we wouldn't know. I mean, they're every bit of them is
That's
eaten.
right. You're
Yeah.
gone. You're just missing. I love that. One more fun question. We ask everyone this, especially if you've been in a horror movie in real
Okay.
life. Again, separate from Patrick, your character. No
Okay.
spoilers there. But in real life, how do you think you would fare in a horror movie scenario? Do you think you'd be the first to go? Do you think you'd make it to the midway point and then have that climactic, death or, out? Or do you think you'd be last man standing? Or it could be something I haven't mentioned here. You
Um,
could be inconsequential second, like just,
this is the guy that makes the bad decisions.
yeah, you could be
No,
the cold open, like the character nobody actually gets to know before.
it's just, was that guy? No, it sort of looks like a main character, but it never, never
Never
really.
makes it to the end.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good question. I think. Uh, do you know what? Do you know what? Very much like my character in the Hunger Games, I think I would sacrifice myself for the greater good. So like, I think I'd be that guy. I'd die a hero's death, but wouldn't last till the end. I think I'd be like, save yourselves, and then give myself, like, come on, that guy.
Yeah, it's a real Finnick Odair move.
It really is. I think it's, for the greater good, I would, because I definitely don't think I am stupid enough to die first. I'd like to think this is. I suppose it depends who's directing this movie. But I'd like to think I'm clever. Like I'm too logical and
Hmm.
practical, and I definitely have survivor skills, and I'm a very. I've got good stamina. I feel
Hmm.
like
Yeah,
I build up pretty good, but I think in order to save someone else, I would definitely sacrifice myself.
that's a really good answer. That's a really good answer. And honestly, a good answer being a parent, I'd
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, yeah. My
I'd
kids.
say.
Yeah. For my kids, in my situation, my kids and I'd even sacrifice for myself for the dog. I think for sure.
Even
I,
now, the crowds love that.
yeah. It has to be done. I
It
think.
has to be done. It has to
Yeah.
be done. People get very upset when the dog dies.
My dog is very old now, but like I would give her a very enjoyable last month of her life. But I have to say, I've never really, and this is the truth, I've never really been afraid of death in a
Mhm.
way. Like,
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who are afraid of flying and afraid of lots of heights, and like a part of me is always just kind of resigned myself to, like, well, if unless it was something that made a stupid error and caused an accident myself. I think a part of me, like in a plane, I'm like, well, there's nothing I can do. Like if it's my
Yeah.
time, it's my time. I definitely believe in fate and destiny, and everything happens for a reason. And um, so I'm sort of, I'm saying this now. As far as I'm aware, I'm okay for a little while,
Knock on wood.
but I'm not afraid.
No,
Which
that's
is a
I
good thing. I think
a
I'm not
great
worried.
thing. A great thing. Yeah, I feel the same way about planes. I always figure like I used to have a little bit of fear about it, and now I'm like, I'll just put my headphones in. I get to choose the song. You
This is
can't do anything. I think the bigger fear is the anticipation of it than death itself, not to be too heady
yeah.
about it, but the fear is the fear of death
Oh
versus
no.
actually death.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And do you know what? I think again, I'm talking about myself and my movies, but a movie that I did called Me Before You, which is about this man who
Mm-hmm.
chose death and chose to, be euthanized. um, I think really kind of helped me navigate that kind of going like live
Oh,
boldly, you only live one life, and if it's your time to go, it's your time to go. I don't know. It was a real morbid, but sort of good realization, I think,
yeah. That's
to
really
take.
cool that you've gotten something from like something pretty significant from all of these roles. Like you already mentioned, the jellyfish fear sort of helping to get over that. And,
Yeah.
that's a pretty profound one too from Me Before You.
Yeah, I think this is kind of why I love my job. Like I have to say, having the opportunity to delve into these characters, into these worlds, and whether they're real or fictional, it's sort of really, as you say, I think I come away from every job having learned something. Like, I mean, just as Patrick McKee, they sent me on a couple of lessons, learning how to wood carve, which you
Yeah.
barely see, but I mean that they really wanted it to look natural, and
No, it
I
did look natural. I was actually wondering if you were a carver, and then it's so funny that you mentioned actually one of your childhood fears involved like carved figurines because that's
yeah,
kind of a
yeah,
big
yeah,
part of Bagman.
exactly. And again, I think there was that when they sent me like these wooden carvings, like images of these wooden carvings, I was like, oh, I'm back in my childhood. This is
Yeah.
terrible. Every aspect of this is terrifying.
So did you
So
carve a full figurine at all?
no, no, I never got quite that good, but I definitely
I was gonna
they
ask to see it.
It, no, it's used as a dog toy now.
Yeah.
It's they gifted me a knife, which I haven't used since. And this is the thing, I feel like I finished the job, and the first thing I want to do is get as far away from the
Yeah.
character in the back from that, and
Yeah.
then I forget to pick it back up again. But I do have a beautiful knife that they gifted me, and certain woods in order to kind of practice.
Yeah.
But I'm a dad. So it's not safe to have a knife
No,
around.
no, not a very safe hobby. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I'm curious, where was Bagman filmed?
Bulgaria, which was kind of,
Bulgaria?
yeah, Bulgaria in a place called Sofia.
Oh,
It
I
was my
thought you were kidding because they said it's New
no,
Jersey.
yeah. I mean, well, the fact is, the majority of the cast were British, which
Yeah.
was also kind of a strange sort of strange turn of events. And because I remember asking the question, I was like, why don't we just set this in England? Like, I feel like
Yeah.
maybe it would be a bit safer and easier, but no, I mean, yeah. We filmed in the back lot of a studio in Bulgaria and Sofia,
Wow.
and there was a few location shoots, but the house, which is the majority of the setting, they built, yeah, in a back lot somewhere, which was
Wow.
pretty surreal. And there's
Bulgaria.
yeah,
As a
I've never.
double for New Jersey, I just didn't see it coming.
But there was like within the back lot, as well as like a Rome, the whole of Rome being built out of cardboard. There was this little American town that was sort of, which is, you see me
Yeah.
chasing Bagman through. Yeah, they'd sort of managed to find this wonderful, I mean, incredible set, and uh, yeah, it was pretty, it was amazing having the opportunity to explore the city and. Um, yeah, see the sights and stuff. So it's
It
pretty
was
good.
very convincing. Very convincing New Jersey. Very convincing pastoral American town.
Yeah, it's just every typical American uh American town.
So do you have any like final kind of like words for anyone that you think that is looking forward to seeing Bagman? Like if they like this kind of horror movie, you might enjoy Bagman. Something like that. Who would you think would really enjoy this?
Well, I mean, for me, I think, well, it's the thing. It's enjoying it, and then there's like being scared by it. So it depends what you're
Yeah.
looking for.
Yeah.
I mean, for me as a parent, like the thought of this sort of movie is terrifying,
Yeah.
and if that is a reason to watch it, I don't know. But I feel like if you like horror, and if you like, it's a slow burn. Like I feel like
Hmm.
there's not huge amounts of action necessarily, but it's more of a mental tension building.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think of a film that's sort of similar. Yeah, I mean, I mentioned the Blair Witch, but the Blair Witch, very little happens, but it's sort
Yes.
of the build up and it's the thought of things happening. And I
Yeah.
think in that sense, you know, the story of this is sort of goes a little deeper, um, and is a bit richer in history of it, and the fact that it's like hinted at, you know, being based on a real life myth and a suggestion. Like I think that in and of itself is a reason to watch it. Also
Yes.
I'm in it, and no, I'm kidding. I think I don't know, but it's also if you like creatures and if you like because I know that certain people like films that are kind of creature based or some like slasher, but this is just incredibly kind of creepy and I think they did a wonderful job at kind of building the shape of this new creature like monster, which is very original and very unique in a way. So you know, I don't. It's hard to say if you like this film because I feel like this is a very different kettle of fish.
It is. It's a different beast too. I do think the smile is, I hadn't quite seen that before. It's very creepy. It's very unsettling. Bagman is, needless to say, very unsettling,
That's
but in a good way.
yay.
Yay.
I'm so glad we started you. No,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Well, I really enjoyed it, and I'm sure a lot of other people will too. I know it comes out this weekend, so
yeah, it's coming soon. It's
yes.
scary.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. It was such a pleasure talking to you.
You too. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye.